radio, glowing magic transistor radio, glowing magic transistor. Hello YouTube and YouTubettes. Welcome to another album review. I'm going to start a new playlist that I will call Beach Boys related album reviews. So this is exciting, and I'm going to start with Van Dyke Park's Song Cycle. This was released in 1967 on Warner Brothers, recorded in Sunset Sound, and this was produced by Lenny Waronker. Van Dyke Parks became an in-demand session pianist in the 60s, and obviously I heard about him when he collaborated with Brian Wilson, originally on the Smile album, which, I obviously had been familiar with the Beach Boys for several years and was a big fan of their hits, but it was the Smile stuff that really got me deeper into the Beach Boys. He also collaborated on some later songs such as Sail On Sailor, and collaborated with Brian on a future album that I will get to on this playlist. The album cover is a distinguished photo of Van Dyke Parks with nice lettering on the left. This is a great picture and great lettering. I think it makes for a great album cover, and I will give it a 10 out of 10. Now on to the songs. Track number 1 is Vine Street, which is a cover song written by Randy Newman. Starts out with kind of this folky kind of sound and then gets into some sort of symphonic, something that would be on Broadway or something. It's as far as the way it's arranged and produced. This obviously does a little worse on scoring just because it is a cover, because I only go up a certain number, except for production, which I gave a 10. But this does higher on the artsiness and lyrical poetry, and lower on the catchiness and hook. But a really good song, does well for a cover. I give it a 6.0. Palm Desert Market to buy, 10-foot up to date. Track number 2 is Palm Desert, written by Van Dyke Parks. This has another kind of a Broadway style music that's a bit avant-garde and has this interesting filter on his voice that makes it even more avant-garde. Again, this is high on the artistic and poetry side, greatly produced, lower on the catchiness and hook side, but a really good song. It's not really my taste in music, but I can really appreciate it. I give this one an 8.2. Track number 3 is Widow's Walk, written by Van Dyke Parks. This one is a bit more of my taste. It's got a very beautiful melody line, very artistic and poetic, greatly produced, but a little higher on the catchiness and hook side. I just love the keyboard sound, kind of a clangy piano sound, and just a beautiful melody line. And I give this song an 8.6. Track number 4 is Laurel Canyon Boulevard 1, and this is a very short track, very interesting track, kind of a gap piece. I really do like it, but because it's so short, I don't go very high on it. I give it a 6.8. Track number 5 is All the Golden, written by Van Dyke Parks. I think my favorite thing about this song is the arrangement, the instrumentations. The music at the beginning is really cool, really interesting, but then it gets into the melodies, which is kind of like track number 2, where it's sort of this avant-garde Broadway kind of music that's not really of my taste. But I think that the arrangements are fantastic, and overall I give this song an 8.4. Track number 6 is a gap piece called Van Dyke Parks, which is kind of, it's actually a traditional hymn in the background with sounds of like a radio dial, static. It's very interesting, very avant-garde, but because it is a cover, sort of, so to speak, I don't go as high on it. It's very short. I give it a 5.2. Track number 7 is it's called Public Domain, written by Van Dyke Parks. This is another one of those that has very interesting arrangements, and my favorite thing about it, it kind of has that parts that he sings, the melody line. I just don't care for it that much. It doesn't pull me in, but the music itself is great, and then it breaks into this instrumental section that's kind of 20th century avant-garde classical music. So that's all very interesting. Very high in the artistic side and poetic side, very well produced. Lower on the catchiness side, but I give this one an 8.4. Track number 8 is called Donovan's Colors, written by Donovan Leitch. This is an instrumental, and Donovan is one of those singer-songwriters that I need to get more into. I've heard some of his stuff, but I haven't dug deep into it. If you know of an album or two that you think is his best, tell me in the comments section, because I would love to maybe review one of his albums. So this is a beautiful instrumental. It is a cover, so it doesn't do as high as it could, but it's one of my favorite music pieces on the album. And I give this one a 7.3. Track number 9 is called The Attic, written by Van Dyke Parks. And this is one of the best songs. It's the highest scored song on my review here. It's kind of that Broadway style, but a bit more happy, and it's not too strange of a melody line. I think it's a very catchy melody line. In fact, very happy. As most of the songs on the album does high on the artistic, poetic, and production, but it actually does higher in catchiness and lyrical hook. And so that brings everything up. And overall, I give this song a 9.0. Number 10 is Laurel Canyon Boulevard 2. This one is quite strange. The first bit of the song I'm not a big fan of, but I think it gets, that last bit is really catchy and artistic as well. Just kind of a strange song, quite short, but there's some moments of it, and of course, like most of the songs, does well artistically and production-wise. This one picks up at the end catchiness-wise, so that helps a little bit. But overall, I give this song an 8.0. Track number 11 is called By the People, which starts out pretty catchy, but has a lot of strangeness to it and gets really avant-garde as it goes. But this is one of my favorite tracks on the album. I'm not sure if that sound at the beginning is a female voice or some kind of instrument, but very interesting. I give this one an 8.8. The final track is called Potpourri, written by Van Dyke Parks. This is almost pretty much background music. It's recorded very softly. It's nice music. but because it's very hard and it's very short, I didn't give it a high score. I only give this one a 6.2. The album flow is a 10 out of 10. I think it works well all the way together, has a single production vision from beginning to end, and I haven't studied the lyrics deeply enough to know if there's like a theme or anything, but musically there definitely is. So a 10 out of 10 for the flow. Yeah, Van Dyke Parks, when he worked with Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys, his main contribution was poetic lyrics. And, Mike Love would complain that his lyrics were too nonsensical, not very straightforward, not accessible kind of lyrics. And I don't know that he always does it that way. I don't know that these songs are necessarily nonsensical, but it was just maybe what Brian wanted. I don't know. But he has a very interesting style. He has stated that he doesn't like pop music very much. And there's not really much pop music on this album. It's more avant-garde, classical, Broadway style, some folk, but definitely very different. And this is just an interesting kind of music. It's not my taste particularly for the most part. There's some interesting parts in here, and I have to really kind of be in the mood, and I can really appreciate his style. But overall, it's not really my thing. I will say that he has an interesting voice, and I particularly do like interesting voices as opposed to voices that sound like everybody else. So now I will pull out my handy dandy computer and calculate my formula. And this album gets a 7.92 out of 10. Thank you and have a wonderful day.